wild day in the Big Brother house. I will try to recap the vote flipping here in a while, but I would like to start with Kyland and Azza, who had a chat early in the morning on Wednesday morning between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m., where Kyland really laid out the game to Azza and even let Azza in on the royal flush. Didn't go into all the details nor the name, but definitely laid out the chessboard, the overall game and what's going on to Azza. And now that Azza is gaining more and more information, someone to watch out for. This also just shows, though, that the longer the cookout can stay together, the better chance Kylan has to win this game, because Kylan is the one truly keeping the cookout informed on everything. And although there is kind of a split in the cookout, I mean, so much can change, and we don't know how much longer the cookout's going to last without losing a member, especially with the dramatics that is going on. But next, I need to lay out Tiffany's game. I mean, anybody who's watched any of my videos between fucking night 10 and now, I've pretty much laid out her messy gameplay every goddamn day. But I also just want to point out why she is her own worst fucking enemy. Tiffany and Derek F created the cookout. I don't know if they're actually the ones that created it, but they were the ones at first that were pushing the hardest for it. And Tiffany was all on board and came up with plans with Derek F and Azza and X to have their people on the outside. But then, as she actually started getting closer to Claire, even though it was her idea to get close to somebody outside of the cookout, she started having all these doubts, and it really became her just placating for the cameras, saying she knows she has to stay with the cookout, even though it seemed like everything she was starting to do said otherwise. And there was that night where she almost spilled all to Claire. So Tiffany has created the cookout and has this as a backup, and then starts to cause her own cracks within the cookout, because she started fighting with and ignoring Azza. And then her and Derek F have always had some tension. But then soon it turned, she was annoyed with Kylan and wanted to target Kylan right away. And there was even a brief moment a few days ago when she started with Xavier. So Tiffany has always started these cracks within the cookout herself. And then you got these dumbass fans online acting like Tiffany's the one carrying the cookout. Tiffany's stands are fucking delusional. Tiffany has worked against the cookout a lot, and she has never won power. Kylan won that HOH, had an easy out with Frenchie. Xavier won that HOH, had an easy out with Brent. Tiffany did nothing for those fucking weeks. That was all easy targets by other cookout members. And then last week, when Christian was HOH, Xavier had a lot of influence on trying to get the target, Sarah Beth's target on Hannah, off. And then Hannah herself played a big part in getting that target off her back. So I'm tired of everybody online acting the Tiffany stands, like Tiffany's carrying the cookout, when in reality, she's created all these cracks within the cookout. And now nobody should be surprised after today's events that a lot of the cookout members are starting to see the real Tiffany, the messy Tiffany, the dramatic, baby, emotional player Tiffany. But we'll get to more of that soon. The other thing I want to talk about first is I really hope that Derek X is genuine with this final two with Hannah and is actually starting to see all these weeks he's been calling Hannah the emotional player who takes everything at face value while putting all his trust in Kylan and Tiffany, who have just used him, only to this week see that all of his allies are wrecks, are either emotional or don't really care as much about him. But Hannah, through this week, has been nothing but cool, calm, and collected, and the least emotional player in this fucking house this week. Hannah's really had a good week. Her social game is honestly top tier, I think. The fact that the OG Hannah hater, Brittany, the one who actually started putting that target on Hannah's back, and even is the one, in my opinion, that led Sarah Beth to do the same. She has now got Brittany pretty tight. So yeah, I just hope Derek X sees the value in Hannah. Unfortunately, like I've been saying for Derek X, though, too late probably for his game. He should have come to this realization 2 weeks ago when he could have actually formed something more genuine with Hannah, because Hannah is super pro cookout. But the cookout had its problems today because as messy as I've thought Tiffany has been, and as emotional as I thought Tiffany has been, she fucking topped herself today. She did the one thing I truly didn't think she was going to try to do, and that was flip late in the week on DX's HOH, her supposed ally, and try to turn the votes away from Christian and onto Sarah Beth. Tiffany is definitely a person who just cannot deal with not getting her way. That is truly what it comes down to a lot of times with her. She can't control you. She'll just fucking ignore you and try to smear your name like she's done with Azza. She gets these obsessions like she has with Sarah Beth. So I talked about the drama with Tiffany last night with the Jokers. While it played a part today in her little stupid ass scheme to go to Derek X and try to tell him that Brittany, she's not sure where Brittany actually stands, because Brittany is telling Christian that she's going to vote to keep Christian in the game, not knowing that Derek X and Brittany had come up with this whole scheme where Brittany was in on everything and that they've kept in touch. Although it is true that Brittany's telling Derek X one thing and telling Christian another. And if I remember, I'll try to talk more about Brittany towards the end of this. But so yeah, she goes to Derek X thinking she could convince Derek X that the votes need to be turned, because she's always said for the last 2 weeks she wants Sarah Beth out. But the brilliant play by Azza that will go underrated because nobody wants to give Azza her fucking due is Azza took that conversation with Tiffany last night. Tiffany coming at the Jokers so dramatically and emotionally and stupidly. And she's been wanting to make sure that Tiffany and Claire had to show some of their cards, because they too are just doing the same thing that DF is doing, kind of, and that Azza is doing, and just trying to be a little more vague with their voting. Although Derek F did also tell Alyssa that he was going to keep Christian. So Azza went to Christian early today to tell him that he does not have her vote. Made it clear so then Christian could only turn to Tiffany and Claire and try to get their votes. And I thought that was a great play by Azza because it led to a lot of today's dramatic events. So after Tiffany pitches this stupid thing to DX, Derek X goes to talk to Azza, who puts Derek X up to speed, and then Derek X ends up talking to all three Jokers And it's pretty clear by this point, they start to bury Tiffany and Claire for doing all of this against Derek X's wishes and trying to flip the votes in Christian's favor and make it seem like the Jokers are the problem, even though this week, the stupid thing about Tiffany's plan is she knows Hannah's not going to go for it. And she's trying to throw the Jokers under the bus, but she needs a fifth vote. So if she were to go through with this, it's just her and Claire, and then Alyssa and Xavier, and she still needs one more. And she's hoping it's Brittany, but Brittany's playing both sides. And then that brings us to Xavier, because when Tiffany runs this by Xavier, of course he's gone code. He gets to keep his showmance for whatever reason. My theory on why Xavier actually wants to keep Christian in this game and why he's gone so hard, so stupidly for Christian is because Xavier knows that when Christian's out of this house, he's going to be simping so hardcore for Alyssa because Alyssa's going to be all over Xavier, and it's going to continue to hurt Xavier's game. And when Xavier doesn't have control, he does not know how to adapt well. So Xavier and Tiffany had discussed this, and they decide, yes, it is best to try and flip the votes. Tiffany talks Claire into it, but at the same time as when the Jokers are talking to Derek X, and then by the time Christian comes to get Brittany to go talk to Tiffany, since last night's drama with Brittany doing her fucking dramatics and crying a lot, all three Jokers apparently, the feed's cut, but all three Jokers apparently went to confront Tiffany, which Tiffany did not take a liking to. But the reality that Tiffany did not take a liking to is that she didn't get away because she was out fucking played by Ozza and Derek F. There was another point where Derek F and Xavier's trying to convince Derek F the best thing to do is to keep Christian, but Derek F called Xavier out on all his shit in that Derek F had to get rid of Frenchie, so Xavier needs to get rid of one of his two backup plans in Alyssa or Christian. Derek F's had it with Tiffany. Those two are going to have some big argument one of these days. But Tiffany, like the fan base, completely underestimated the Jokers. They were able to swat the fuck down her little attempt at flipping the house in less than 2 hours. And Tiffany just showed a lot of her messiness now to Derek X, to Claire, kind of, although Claire's seen her messiness firsthand because she's always spiraling. And even Hannah, I feel like Hannah had to talk Tiffany down at one point because Tiffany's always trying to put those cracks in the cookout and then now wondering why Derek F, Ozza, and Kylan all see Tiffany as a problem. And since this point in the day, Tiffany has been in a bad mood, been pissy, been a little baby at her old age of fucking 40. She's super fucking immature, it's true. I think somebody commented that on yesterday's video. I'll go over comments if I remember and have time. Like, seriously, you're 40, and then Hannah's 21, and so much more mature than you. So lastly, I'll talk a little about Brittany, who I don't know what she's doing. I don't really get her game. She helped Derek X execute this backdoor, but told Christian she would keep him. And I think also maybe actually wanted to flip. I can't really tell. I stopped watching the feeds at like around 1 Big Brother time, Pacific time. So anything that happened between 1 Pacific time and 4 Pacific time by the time this probably airs on YouTube, I didn't watch because I didn't staying up late again after last night's fucking fiasco, which just pissed me off at Tiffany even more than I've even already been. But yeah, Tiffany exhausting per usual, exhausting other players in the game, pissing off other players in the game. Brittany's using her emotional manipulation well, I think, on a lot of people. But I don't get her thing with Christian. I don't know if it's because of her crush on Christian. Brittany just wants some dick, let's be real. And then Claire went to Christian to finally someone other than Ozza tells Christian that he doesn't have the votes, so he's going home. And Derek X did a really good job after Tiffany talked Claire into flipping Derek X. When Tiffany was having a fit, having her little baby tantrum, Derek X had a good conversation with Claire, talking Claire down from the flip. So yeah, it was a dramatic day, but in the end, the fact remains that the Jokers outplayed Tiffany and Xavier on this flip, and it was pretty quick. They put the kibosh down on it. I really just reputations in this game are pretty important. Perception is reality, and if Tiffany is going to continue to put out this perception that she's both messy and pissy, I mean, I've always been saying she's been fucking up her jury votes, but I think it's more than that, honestly, at this point. Let me go over some comments in yesterday's video when I was being nice and pissy myself, to be honest. We got Miracle. She's been following for a while now. Shout out to Miracle. She agreed that Tiffany is a colorist and has issues with women, and she also is too immature for her big age. Exactly. So immature. Constantly from Tiffany. The dude that likes to chill, shout out to you, said, don't know if you heard this, but DF said he wants to leave the Cookout Alliance. I don't know if he will actually. Yeah, there was a point yesterday after I recorded the second part of the video that I had to record twice. Derek F was venting to Ozza that he wanted to just go around and leave the Cookout because he can't deal with Tiffany anymore. Derek F really wants to take that shot at Tiffany sooner rather than later. But I think Ozza's very good at talking people down. I mean, the Jokers in general, as riled up as they get, they talk each other down well. Reggie P commented on that comment saying, I really hope that doesn't happen. Shout out Reggie. For now, I mean, the Cookout have their problems, and yet it works in their favor because it makes them undetectable. It's such an interesting, odd dynamic. My main, shout out to you. Sorry if I don't know your name, said, here's to hoping Cookout blows up so Hannah and Tiff stick with DX. I mean, Tiffany couldn't even stick with DX today, so I don't know about that. Hannah, I think, honestly could stick with DX at some point, but at the same time, I think she knows he needs to go sooner than later. Hannah's very committed to the Cookout. Kevin Nelson said, can't wait until the Cookout rakes Tiffany through the coals. Same. I mean, they did today. There was a lot of shit talking, but anyway, that's all I got to say. I'm hoping we'll get a knockout comp on this next HOH to cause even more drama. And also, speaking of drama, I want Xavier out of this fucking game. Xavier's boring ass needs to go soon because he's always squashing beefs, squashing potential drama. Christian wanted to call a house meeting, and Xavier put a stop to it. It's good gameplay by Xavier, but I want more drama, and Xavier is impeding on that, so Xavier could go soon for me.